F the culture. This is Poetically, where we're breaking the noise and reclaiming our truth. Now that F may make some feel a little disrespected. It may make some feel a little, elaborated on. Finally, somebody saying F the very thing that's not really holding up to the true morals that we stand as people. Not holding up to the true integrity that we have as Americans. That's why it's F the culture. Freeing our minds, fucking up the system that's currently, how do we put it? How do we put it? Is it working for us or is it working through us? Is it working us? How are we looking at this thing called America? How are we looking at this thing, as we say, the land of the free, the land of so many opportunities, so many things, where you can come and you can join others. But are we joining in true unity, or is it all an illusion? And that's what we're here to talk about. That's what we're here to talk about. I appreciate you. We do this on YouTube. You can check it out Monday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. right here. Because we're starting early. I want to start early. I want to punch you in the gut early, in a good way, because it's time. It's time that the true speakers are truly being able to call out everything for what it is, so that we can have a culture moving forward for the generations that are to come, for the people that are around us that represents who we are as people, right? And through the many facets that we are as people, but first being true to self about who we are as people, calling out who we've been as people, allowing ourselves to know who we are through the historical context, because as we see, there are people that want to erase context, erase history, erase, and I come with my notes, baby. It's things that I want to make sure that these messages are clear. I know it's my calling. I know it's my purpose. I know it's my my whole point in doing this is to make sure that we don't find ourselves too lost in the sauce. When you've been raised and when you've been exposed to points of views, when you've been exposed to history, when you've been exposed to real context, real understandings, when your parents have experienced things, when your grandparents have experienced, when you've been able to hear those stories and be able to reflect on it, be able to have a conscience about it that sees it through the ways that we've had to thrive as people. So when I have these messages, it's for us to feel proud as Americans, though, because we have a great influence on the world. So with that being proud, there also comes responsibility. There also comes an accountability that we're going to talk about, and that we're going to allow ourselves to really to be true on. And when I talk about that illusion of unity, and when I say it's a lot of different points, I want to make sure I stay on point. When I talk about that illusion of unity, it's being able to redefine what it means to be, come together as people, right? And when I even look at people, my melanated brothers and sisters, which I want us to feel proud, right? Because yes, it's a lot of pain. Yes, it's a lot of trauma that we've endured on this soil and on this land to this day and beyond. That's true. However, at the same time, we built this country. At the same time, we're fueling this. So I'm gonna say that every time we do these shows, because it may be somebody new listening, and it's a lot of nuance into what I'm going to talk about. It's a lot of nuance into how I'm going to deliver these messages, though it's going to be very poignant. It's going to be very straightforward, because either you can get the message, either you can comprehend it, either you want to actually take interest, or you're going to be like, oh, it's going to turn you off, and that's cool too. At some point, you're going to realize it's going to affect you, and at that point, whether you're listening to me or whoever you're listening to, you're going to have to listen, and you're going to have to be able to do some research, and you're going to have to take some action, because this country is going to require you to make a decision. It's going to require you to make a decision is if you're going to actually do something, or if you're just going to stand by and let it all be done to you. You ain't going to just sit by and watch it. Nah. And I mean, well, let's just talk about, like the superficial political cause. When we talk about unity, one of the things I think about, I wrote down here, is just how, even when you look at this current election cycle, right, we talk about coming together as people. Even when you look at now our president-elect, Trump, call for unity, but how are we even holding him accountable, and how are we holding these people accountable that may call for unity, especially politics that call for unity. But what are you doing about systematic issues? What are you really saying? Are you letting your words follow your actions of unity, or who is the unity for, right? Because this is a land that we say all is one, and if we're representing ourselves as one, again, how is that one coming together? The world is watching us. The world is listening to us. The world, we are influencing the frequency across these waters that beyond we could ever imagine, right? So, telling us to unite but not addressing the whole system is flag number one, right? Which then leads us into the performative part, the performative of, well, okay, if we say unity, it builds hope. It builds hope. It builds this sense of actual humanity. That's not real. It's not real. It's not real humanity that you have when you say unity, because at that point, what sacrifices are we making? Is it just performative, right? It makes me think about during, pandemic era, how the Black Lives Matter was such, it provided so many people to perform of their activism. And, you think about the Blackout Tuesday, how that was big across social media, and how we had to have those black people putting up those black squares to say, today I'm not posting anything but this black square. But posting, if your activism begins with a click and ends with a click, that is just in a representation of a trend, is it really activism? Is it really activating? Or is it just a moment, right? How do we take moments and actually make movements? And that's what we're looking for. And that's why I say F the culture, because F to everything that we think this is around us. Because when we say one thing, how are our principles that we're saying this culture should run by really run? Who's operating that, right? And it starts with self. So when we say things and we do certain things, are we just continuing the cycle and allowing ourselves to, okay, we look like we're doing something, but we're not really doing anything? Come on, you know it. So I mean, when we look at that, we look at what's the incentive behind that? Like, what's the push behind that? And it starts with the media. One thing is that I take when I sit down and I reflect, it's the media after the major political events that love to sometimes show the bipartisan photo ops, while still facing to really crack down and present the journalism of maybe the voter suppression, of the inadequate resource distribution to many communities, so that they can learn and actually be an educated voter, right? Or actually be an educated citizen behind certain laws that are going on, behind certain people that are running your district going on, right? It's no media coverage really in that. It's just okay, we want to push the numbers for our advertisers, we want to push the numbers for whatever sponsors we have, and then we want to switch to the next trend, right? Get off this, switch to the next trend. Okay, that's good. This is where people are. We're not going to really do the journalism here. We're not. And that's the illusion that we have is unity. Is everything is right now off a click. Everything is based on how it provides to make us look good as individuals, and as brands, because of what it can then benefit us in our circles, right? And one could say that is unifying us, because we'll assimilate before we actually confrontate. Confrontation and assimilation, I want to get to that, right? One of the historical examples that I wanted to write down here, though, was even looking at the post-Civil War Reconstruction. Efforts to unify the North and South ignored the needs of the newly freed Black Americans, focusing instead on appeasing former Confederates. Think about that, right? Right then. So when I talk about these things, I want us to take a historical lens and take a historical perspective and actually step into an educated concept of where we are as Americans. And that's what I mean, F the culture, because where we are as Americans is not a truthful position. Where we are as Americans is showing the world that all we care about is manipulation, greed, violence, right? Though this thing is so deep within our roots. Again, the North and South, you know, when you think about the post-Civil War Reconstruction, how even that from it did not help prevent a Jim Crow era. It did not help prevent mass incarceration. It did not help prevent the gun violence within our neighborhoods. It didn't. So when we talk about unity together, it's really being able to embrace the pain of America, embrace the truth of America, embrace who we are as Americans, actively listening to understand the perspectives, you know, engaging in face-to-face conversations. How many people are you engaging with on the other side of your comfort zone? That's it. How many people are we engaging with on the other side of our comfort zone to be able to tap in, for them to experience? Because all it is feeling the frequency. Most people just feel missing the frequency. They not around it. That's it. That's it. Excuse me. That's it. That's it. They're not around it. They're not around the vibration of someone that can actually be present. And that's on all ends. That's on all ends. And actually allowing that. It takes time. It takes time. This is not something that could just happen overnight. So, you know, we want to question and challenge the media narratives that go on. We really do. We really do. And I mean, when we talk about it, what's the real cost of unity? Sacrifices of our comfort. You know, when I think about the civil rights movements, when I think about all those boycotts, marches, just when the getting sprayed by the water hose, the dogs, the lynchings, the beatings. Let's really get into it. Challenging who we've been as people. This is not that far. This isn't that far. We still have people living to this very day that experience that. So, real unity means sacrifice, right? Sacrificing the comfort and challenging our personal bias. So, for example, you know, as we're being honest with ourselves and our roles in society, as men, how are we being honest about the advantages that we have in so many different areas, in the career in the relationship in so many different areas? Women being honest about the advantages you have, and then coming together and looking at, okay, what are the disadvantages? What do we go through? Why is that? Instead of, you know, we talk about it, but really, why is it? It's something deeper. We're going to keep talking about it because we got to understand what's the spirit of this nation. What's the spirit in the actual soil? Because why is it? Well, we'll talk about these things that we go through, but we talk about it. We talk about it. How are we actually taking the moments to step up and actually bring the community together? And I want to shout out Honor Your Presence. Shout out to Andrea Cole Flo. Shout out to Honor Your Presence, just one of the people I know in the community, holding a safe space for women of color. That's on Tuesdays. It's donation based. Tuesdays, I believe it starts at 6:30, from 6:30 to 7:45. It's a virtual experience. Check out Honor Your Presence on Instagram. Honor Your Presence. Andrea has a holding a safe space for women of color, and it's virtual. Check that out. And there are many others that are doing the same thing. How are we holding these spaces? R&B and poetry. When I did R&B and poetry, Poetic R&B, you can follow that. Poetic R&B, I'm getting all the plugs. But that was a safe space for people to come together. That matters. It's not about what it looks like. Is it safe for your audience? Is it a safe space for your audience to come together and they can release? They can feel good. They can talk. You can communicate messages to each other that feel safe. That's what it's about. And then being able to actually not be able to be so critical, but actually then learn how to bridge the gaps. Make it a safe space for others to maybe want to bridge the gap. We have to. We have to. It's one of those times where it's like, yeah, take care of yourself, but then you realize yourself is involved into a whole energy and lifespan that involves the community. It involves the community. The real cost is just our sacrifice of comfort. So we have to lead by example. The accountability, our self-reflection within our own communities, when we think about how we have to look back at where we, and understand the history that's going on, the fake activists, and how that's traumatized us, right? So we kind of lose hope in who we're listening to. We kind of lose faith in our leaders. Look at hip hop. Look at hip hop. Where are you, Hove? I mean, where you at, Jay? Where you at, Hove? I know you probably may be doing some things behind the scenes, but it would be nice in this moment to hear your voice. It would be nice to actually hear your thoughts and hear your voice. It's not about saying you got to actually have a plan. Sometimes the frequency of hearing those that have been given the gift of the voice, hearing the voice sometimes just is enough to activate the people. So if you have a voice out there, just allowing yourself to whoever you may be speaking to. That's why we have the beauty of social media. We have the beauty of our technology. So we can just get onto a platform like this right here, and I can be able to just allow this to flow out, flow to you, activate you, trigger you into a thought, trigger you into an action, trigger you into a connection. That's what this is about. It's not about who's perfect. It's not about this. It's about what you're doing. What are you showing up as? And that's what we have to be as Americans. Truthful in the pain that we've caused. Truthful in how we've stolen and continue to steal. And continue to push poison in all the youth. Through the food, the entertainment. It's not the focus is about awareness. It's not about what you're doing is right or wrong. It's about you being aware and actually truly standing in that. Because that's what makes this whole thing defensive. That's what makes everybody then start not really owning up, and that's what creates the division. Is not the accountability. It's not. We have to share our personal experiences, share our growth, share what we're going through, and be able to challenge the narratives. Be able to challenge the narratives. Unity, I wrote right here, unity isn't theoretical, it's practical. Unity isn't theoretical, it's practical. Start where you are. If somebody had asked me, and I like to that's why I like to put my notes together, because it helps me really keep on track about how we can really keep integrity into this culture. And I say start from where you are and build there. It's not a grand scheme. It's like literally starting in your neighborhood. Literally starting in your space. I had my studio in one space, and I said, you know what, it's a bar next door. How can we connect? And boom, it started something for in energy for the community, right? And that's where it starts. We have to start there. It's not this big idea. It's really starting at home. It's really being able to, if you have a parent, if you have a family member that may be really irrational, or they may be really opposite in your energy, your frequency. Well, it starts with, and it can definitely, family is tough to deal with. It can be tough. It can be challenging. Though it can bring another essence of who you are in your boundaries and who you are in your truth. You can still speak and say what you have to say to people and still maintain your boundaries. It's not here saying we have to be kumbaya and just all every day hold each other's hand, but it's saying, hey, I stand proud of who I am because I know what I see, and you can't harm me of that. Because I'm just calling out for what it is. That's what we're taking as people. Unity isn't about agreeing on everything. It's about committing to a shared vision and being willing to fight together. Unity isn't about agreeing to everything. It's committing to a shared vision and being willing to fight for it together. I want us to think about that. I want us to cherish that in our minds and our hearts and our paths. And I want us to understand it doesn't mean we have to agree. It means that can we share a vision and be able to fight for it together. A vision for where you have your land, I have my land. You have your family, I have my family. You have your business, I have my business. Maintaining the world together. That's why it's F the culture, because we have to free our minds while also fucking up the system. Love is Poeticlee, Poeticle. Make sure you tune in to F the Culture on Like This Poetic TV. You can follow Poeticlee on YouTube, Instagram, Like This Poetic TV. Till next time, stay up.